Hello everyone. Happy Tuesday, September the 11th, 2018. I am in Los Angeles, California. Got in late last night after a long drive from Lake Tahoe through some fire. Actually, there's a forest fire that they had put out largely, but it was still burning up on top. So that was interesting. The first time I've ever driven past a forest fire as it was still burning. So, and also I drove next to Death Valley National Park, where I know temperatures are like the hottest anywhere, like I think 130 some degrees is the high in the United States in history, world history, something like that. So it was not quite that warm where I was at because I was not in the middle of that desert, but I was near enough that when I got out to get some gas, it was wild. Went to a Shell station to get some gas, and my credit card, I ran it through, and then they wouldn't, the pump wouldn't function. I mean, everything took, the credit card was fine, and the gas wouldn't come out. So I tried it a second time, didn't work again, so I'm thinking, okay, it must be too hot. It's too hot for the gas to pump today. So I can't imagine, though, the people that live like near Death Valley. It is so warm and it's just hot, and a lot of I was thinking, even, what kind of animals live there? How is there any life if you don't have any water? If you don't have any water, how can you have life? So blows my mind, some of the places that I've been able to drive past. And so anyways, my continued adventures continue on. So last night and again, I wasn't even sure where I was going to go yesterday. I ended up coming to Los Angeles, and I am right now at a park never heard of before called Frank Benelli. Frank Benelli Regional Park. Apparently he was the LA County Supervisor of the 1st District from 1958 to 1972. And they named this park after him in his honor. They have a reservoir here, and there's some hills you can go hiking in around here. It's a pretty place. They also have coyotes here. So if you're looking for coyotes, come to Frank Benelli Park. So I came up with when the Lord showed me the topic of the day, the Lord humbles the proud and promotes the humble. I had not even thought about this being 9/11. I had not even thought about this date until when I got to the park. When I got to the park, the Lord spoke to me, and I said, do you remember where you were 17 years ago? And I was like, no. He's like, you were here. You were here in Los Angeles 17 years ago today on 9/11. I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. I remember. I can't forget that, because I was in business at the time. Actually, I'd flown to San Francisco the day before, and I flew down from San Francisco to LA. I woke up in the morning about 5 a.m. Today I never watch TV. I mean, very rarely. But back then I turned on the TV for the news in the morning, and they had the airplane, the first one that was inside of the first Twin Tower. And as I was watching it, I saw the second one. So, oh, I see Martha, you've been here, so isn't that funny? So the second airplane I watched hit, and I knew that something was not right with that day in the world. And I know that you all remember where you were at 17 years ago today. Of course, you were 17 years younger than what you were today. I'm 51, I was 34 at that point in time. And I remember when I saw that, happen, I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? The rest of the world, what this is going to be different. The world will be different from this day forward, because I knew, obviously when you saw the second plane hit live, that was not an accident. And so I ended up, I had a rental car. Most people, they didn't have rental cars they were stuck where they were at because the planes weren't going to fly out. I know a lot of people, it was a banking conference that I was in Woodland Hills, California, which is northwest of LA. Now I'm like northeast of LA, so I'm like within, I don't know, 30 miles of where I was at on 9/11, 17 years ago. How crazy is that? The timing of wherever I could have been. I frankly, anymore, 9/11, I mean, yes, I remember it and so forth, very significant, but I don't plan my day around it. The Lord's got me doing ministry full time and so forth. So the chances and odds of me even being here are crazy because I wasn't planning not at all. I was planning, in fact, I'm supposed to be in Needles, California. Needles, California is like, I don't know, hour and a half south of Las Vegas. I don't like Las Vegas. I've never liked Las Vegas. It's very dry. They smoke. Lots of sexual perversion stuff happens, and they gamble. I don't do that stuff, and so anyway, I was considering there's some cheaper hotels that were over in that direction, and then a person reached out to me to come to LA, so I ended up coming to LA, so that's why I'm here. So, and now talking about 9/11's, remembering it, and so it has a lot of remembrance for me, a lot of importance, because I was here when it happened, and I remember, of course, I lived in Indianapolis at the time. So, I had a rental car, I waited for a day. I remember actually ran on the treadmill later that afternoon because the conference, I was at the banking conference, they closed it. And there were some people that lived like in Pittsburgh that immediately got in to their rental car and had other people jump in their car with them and drive across the country. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, am I gonna have to do that, all by myself? And that's exactly what happened. The next day, I woke up the next morning and drove to Gallup, New Mexico, which is in the western part of New Mexico. I got in, I don't know, probably, it was still light, so maybe it was 8 o'clock at night, something like that. And then I was watching the news. And of course it was weird because there was no airplane, contrails that were in the sky. And who knew how long it was going to be before planes would be flying again. And so I woke up at like 5 a.m. I left at 5 a.m. that morning from Gallup, New Mexico. I drove all the way to Joplin, Missouri, southwest Missouri. And it was the longest drive of my life up to that point. I've now since eclipsed that by like an hour, I think, driving from San Antonio to Campbellsville, Kentucky. Twice I've done that drive, 17-hour drive. So I ended up getting back home basically 2.5 days. And I was thinking at the time, man, that's crazy. Wow, that's a once-in-a-lifetime drive. Man, I know I'll never do that drive ever again, And of course, now what am I doing? The Lord has me driving everywhere. Who drives, who purposely drives, from all over the United States, basically, in Canada, to do ministry. I was thinking about that too. I'm like, I'm sure there's people that do that. I know that some people have RVs and so forth, but for the large part, I stay in people's homes. Some percentage of the time, I'll stay in hotels. Oh, speaking of airplanes and 9/11, there goes one now. How ironic is that? So essentially, the Lord was speaking to me this morning and said, Nelson, he goes, I was preparing you back then for what you're doing today. I was preparing you to drive long distances, without a blink of an eye, driving 17 hours in one day. And like yesterday, I think it was only an 8-hour drive. That was a piece of cake. That was a walk in the park. I drove through a forest that had some fire that was still going on. I go through next to Death Valley and stuff. So it was interesting, watching and going through all this. Every day is different for me. But, if you think about your own life, how has your life changed since 9/11? How has your life changed from 17 years ago? Are you a different person? Are you better? Are you closer to Christ than what you were 17 years ago? I know that I am. And back then I had no desires to do ministry. I wanted to be a multi-millionaire. I wanted to retire, a multi-millionaire. I wanted to enjoy my life financially. And I grew up poor, grew up on a farm, didn't have the money. So now, the Lord, He knew, and now I get to minister to people. I count it a privilege and an honor to be able to do what I'm doing full time. And now I have my first employee, Tina, who's joined me. So we can do now, more than twice as much as what we could do before and with RTF. So, It's a joy watching this develop and helping people get delivered from some of the hardest spirits on earth. Jezebel, Leviathan. You know, without question, those spirits are so prevalent within the church, within people that are going to church. The pride that people have just stinks to high heaven. It just does. You know, those that have pride. You know, those that have been humbled, those are great. You know, God loves those people. You know, the Lord loves that about, you know, a humble heart. And I'm going to talk about that today. When you have pride, you know, what does it look like? Um, the Lord humbles the proud and promotes the humble. Let me read this. James 4, 1 through 10. Where do wars and fights come from among you? You know, think about 9/11. Do they not come from your desires for pleasure that war in your members? You lust and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasures. You know, how many people today, you know, you think about the pleasures, their sexual pleasures, the sex trade, how bad that it is. In fact, I'll say this, there was a woman yesterday who, the topic I was talking about, you know, and she said that of the domestic violence cases that she deals with, a third of them are from wives that are married to pastors or people that are in ministry. You know, that's just is exactly what I'm seeing in Restorative Freedom. So many pastors or pastors' wives, I get calls from around the world saying, help me. I cannot get my wife or my husband delivered. These spirits, they're lying about me, lying to the board about me, lying to the elders about me, and they're controlling and being horrible to me. You know, it's just a sad state of affairs. So it says, adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. In fact, I'll say this. So I was taking a shower this morning. The Lord spoke to me and said, hey, pride. You know, talking about pride today. You know, pride is basically what got Satan kicked out of heaven. And that when we are in pride, we have enmity between us and God because we are aligning ourselves with Satan and against God. And that is true, so true. So it says, whosoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. So again, if we're partnering with pride in our lives, we're partnering with Satan. And that's why the Lord, you know, had me write Pure and Spotless, which again is coming out. Final editing is being done right now. Hopefully, maybe even yet this evening, we'll have the final edits done and have a person that you'll know that's reading it right now. Looking to have them write an endorsement for me, and once that's done, I can get it out there to Amazon. You guys can get it. So, but the whole gist of that book is really, you know, Matthew 7:21 through 23, Lord, Lord, you know, look at all I've done for you. I've prophesied in your name. I've healed people and all this stuff. You know, it's still not good enough. The Lord's like, sorry, depart from me, you know, you workers of iniquity, you know, lawlessness. You know, why? Because he knows their hearts and their minds. And you may be able to act a good game in front of the church. You may be able to act a good game in front of people that think you're prophetic, and you could be prophetic. You could pray in tongues. It doesn't matter if you pray in tongues if you're evil in English or if you're evil in your own language. So true. You know, that's what it comes down to. He knows your hearts and your minds. How are you treating people? Are you treating them with love? You know, in front of the church as well as behind the church? Are you treating your spouse with love? You know, I understand that if you're married to someone that has Jezebel, it's really hard to love them because they're going to be mean to you a lot, and it can create things and provoke you into doing things you aren't normally like. So, but how are you though? Are you normally in loving people? So it says, do not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you think that the scripture says in vain, the Spirit who dwells in us yearns jealously, but he gives more grace? In fact, I'm going to speak to that. Lord wants me to speak to that. So here I am traveling around the world, traveling around the United States for the most part, and Canada at times. And the Lord takes me to these places where there's a lot of peace. You know, I'm at a lake today, a lake with some mountains behind me, and it's very peaceful, and I love going these places. You know, I was in Lake Tahoe yesterday, and the weekend. He says, I want people to get so healthily jealous of what my people who have been restored to freedom have, where they have peace, where they have joy, where they're enjoying their lives. I want people to want that. Those that are in the church that have those spirits of Jezebel, Leviathan, that are controlling, manipulative, lying, and prideful, and all that other junk. I want them to want that life, you know? And I know that we have to go through things. We have to all go through our own stuff. And it's not easy. Sometimes it may take you years before you come out of your season of wilderness or desert or whatever. But it's all going to be worth it in the end, because it's changing you in the process, as long as you let it, as long as you allow it, as long as you get rid of the pride. That's one of the biggest things, stumbling blocks to keep people from all kinds of things. You know, I'm going to talk about that. Oh, here comes another plane. Boss, the plane, the plane. So yes, there must be an airport close to around here. So, but he gives more grace. Therefore, he says, God resists the proud. So literally, if we're prideful, he's going to resist. He's going to try to put things in our way to humble us. So God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, submit to God. You know, just think about Satan. He didn't submit to God. He was prideful and arrogant. God kicked him out of heaven. It says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts. There it is, hearts. Comes down to your heart. He knows your heart. Is your heart good? See, you think about people that do sin, you know, and they feel horrible about it. You know, people that are into pornography. There's a lot of people that are struggling with that. And it's horrible for them. They can't stop it, and they feel so bad about it. And they ask God, and they repent for that. You know, yes, he wants that kind of heart that is repentant. Sure, he wants them completely freed from all that junk, all that sexual stuff. But there's people that are operating in that have a heart of pride. That's saying, I can do whatever I want. They have like a reprobate mind. They're not going to get into heaven, you know? When am I coming to Los Angeles? I am in Los Angeles now, Christina. Keno, California. I think that's up in northern, isn't it? But anyway, I'm in LA for the next 2 weeks, and I'll go through. You can find out on my website too, website and my Facebook page where I'm going to be at. I'm going to be adding another venue in the Pasadena area, but I'm going to be in West Hollywood next Wednesday. I'm going to be in Needles, California this Sunday, Monday, and where else am I going to be? West Hollywood, Needles, and Pasadena. Those are the 3 spots right now. So anyway, go back to the message. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. You know, God is love. Absolutely he is. But do not confuse his unconditional love with his condoning of our actions that are contrary to his will. There is consequences for sin when you continue to look the other way and to not repent and not get before God and continue to do that and thumb your nose at him and have pride and arrogance, you know, and do financial corruption things and all that junk. So anyways, draw near to God, he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, purify your hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. So that's way better. There's people I've seen, obviously, been in the ministry now just for a short time, but I have seen the pridefulness of people, and I've seen people try to get favor from people that are in ministry and try to, you know, kiss their rear basically, and to buy favor and do things for them to try to get in good with them so that they can promote themselves. You know, don't do that. Let the Lord do the promoting of you. You just go out there and do what you're supposed to do and be pure and righteous and humble before the Lord. That's what the Lord has told me to do since 2010, I guess, 2009, when I realized that he was going to put me into a full-time ministry. He said, you got to stay pure, righteous, and humble, Nelson, because if you're not, then the enemy has a legal right to come against you and to stop what I want to do within you. So makes sense. Proverbs 6:16. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look. That's Leviathan. We've talked about this before. That whole verses 16 through 19 is talking about people that operate in the spirits of Leviathan and Jezebel. So there's a proud look. He hates that. Hates it. I've seen that. All of us have seen people that are prideful. I used to be very prideful. God hated that. He didn't like that in me. He wanted to take that away. I know people that are in the ministry that are prideful. And people, we're married to people sometimes, obviously, that Jezebel, Leviathan spirit, that are prideful. And they say things out of pride, and it just stinks. It talks about a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift and running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, one who sows discord among brethren. That's Jezebel. Proverbs 29:23. A man's pride will bring him low, but the humble in spirit will retain honor. How do you speak? Are you prideful? Are you arrogant? People can smell it. They can see it. They can sense it. It's pretty easy. It's very apparent. Nobody wants to be around a prideful person. People want to be following leaders that are humble, that are servants, that are willing to do whatever it takes, that are willing to drive, 800 miles, whatever, drive a long ways to do things to help people. And there are people I know that will message me and try to drain me when I don't have time. Oh, sorry. Now that one's a helicopter. Again, I'm in LA, so they have all kinds of things in the air here. But you have to be careful because, you want to help people, but there are some people that will, unfortunately, waste your time because they don't want to do the work that needs to be done to help themselves to change. They don't want to change. They want to make it easy on themselves. And you tell me, you pray for me, you do this. I didn't, when I started out, I had a mentor who taught me some things, but I didn't drain him. We had a call once every week to 2 weeks, and I learned a lot. I was very grateful to that. Oh, here comes the plane. Oh my goodness. All right, so again, pride. Pride is what caused Satan to be cast from heaven. He fell because of pride that originated from his desire to be God. He wanted to be God instead of a servant of God, instead of just being his worship leader. Satan was the highest of all the angels. He was Lucifer at the time. But he wasn't happy. He wanted to be God and rule the universe. So God cast him out, and a third of the angels went with him to become demons. So when we are in pride, we are operating and aligning our lives with Satan. That's as pure and simple as it gets. We are literally aligning ourselves with Satan against God when we are prideful. That's why if we don't get rid of that spirit of pride at a strong level, spirit of Leviathan, I do not believe you will get into heaven, because God knows your heart. And if your heart stinks, if your mind has all these thoughts that are coming from the enemy that are causing you to be horrible, you could be appearing to be a very godly person in front of the church and be a pastor and all that stuff, but God knows the truth. Pride will also get in the way and stop your healings. So if you haven't been able to get healed of something, normally it comes down to choosing to forgive, getting rid of pride, and breaking off any type of generational curse that has been spoken over you. That's why we're seeing a lot of successes with people that are in restorative freedom, have gone through the prayers because they've gotten delivered from that stuff, which is great. It's also the main reason you see a lot with pride, striving in relationships, striving in marriages and divorces. It's because one person could be very, very prideful, and one that has Jezebel, Leviathan, married to someone that has the Ahab spirit. So, example of pride could be you get into a disagreement with your spouse and you believe that your way was right and that they were completely wrong. Now you could have Leviathan, it could twist everything in your mind. So you could be more wrong than anyone, but yet you don't see it. So you have this arrogance of pride. And so it causes you to not talk to them maybe for a day or a week, I know of one woman that she didn't talk to her husband for like months. I mean, who does that? But a very, very prideful and arrogant person, that has got Jezebel Leviathan. Now, there is a time, of course, if you are in a relationship that you're not married to someone and that they're operating in Jezebel Leviathan and they won't admit to it, then yes, I advise that if they won't get freed, won't get delivered, it's time to pull away. Not out of pride, but out of protection. Because you do not want to get into a relationship. There's some that will just try to guilt you and condemn you and to put you under their thumb so that they can control you. Well, you need to have no part of anything with them anymore. You need to pull away and part at that point. So, but not out of pride. Another thing too is people will oftentimes go to a lot of conferences so they can get prophetic words that are nice words that they want to hear about who they're going to be. But yet I see a lot of people that go from conference to conference and they're not in the process of humbling themselves. So those words, all they do is make them more prideful than ever. And that Leviathan spirit loves to have those ears tickled to say, yeah, this is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be a worldwide ministry person. I'm going to do whatever, And the Lord's like, enough. You stay humble or I'll humble you. Those prophetic words won't come to pass unless you humble yourself. So, oh yeah, the Lord also said there's, a lot of course, God's representatives out there, pastors and so forth, who have hurt people, and it's out of the pride that they have and hypocrisy. A lot of modern day Pharisees, not everyone, but there's a good portion of them that are out there. So we need to be real, be authentic, and humble ourselves. I'll say this. I'll be speaking at Radiance International House of Prayer September 19th, next Wednesday, which is in West Hollywood. And I know a lot of people have talked about, Hollywood becoming Holywood. That is obviously a goal the Lord wants to do, is to take those that are out there, Hollywood represents, a lot of Jezebel Leviathan, absolutely, positively, all the sexual stuff that goes on, all the alluring pictures and the videos and the movies and nudity and all that junk, But how do you do that? How do you change Hollywood to Hollywood? If you think about it, how many people that are in acting in that industry that are truly at peace, that are humble? Not very many, very, very few. So what can make a huge difference in their life is to get one person, get a couple people that are delivered and that can change. Can you imagine a Madonna changing, getting delivered from her father wounds? She had a song, Papa Don't Preach. How many people were preached to by their dad or their mom, or they had people that were in pastors' kids, and they saw the complete hypocrisy behind closed doors. That is so true. You hear about that all the time, where you were growing up and you see, and the pastor could have been, a Jezebel, or he could have been an Ahab. We see a lot of pastors who are married to women that have Jezebel. And so behind closed doors, these kids are seeing the reality of the situation, saying, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with your religion. You can kiss it goodbye. I want nothing. If that's what a Christian really is, they don't want that. So it's important, for us to truly be real and authentic and be delivered and be set free. And so you get someone from Hollywood, someone that's influential, delivered, then amazingly. In fact, when I wrote my book, Restored to Freedom, I remember I have a section in there about praying in tongues. And the Lord had told me that there's going to be some people that would read it, that would get delivered, that would be people from Hollywood, people that would be in acting, people that were wealthy, multi-millionaires. And I'm like, well, should I take that section out? Because what if they don't speak in tongues? And the Lord's like, no, leave it in there. Leave it in there. They need to know the truth. They're hungry, they're starving for that. And now I have had people that have gone through the prayers that are actors and actresses and supermodels and multi-millionaires. So it's all come to pass. So it's people want truth. That's what they really want. And they want peace. And to get delivered, how do you know you got delivered? It's when you're at peace and when you're humble. So again, coming up this Sunday, Sunday morning at Needles Assembly of God in Needles, California, which is east of LA, a couple of hours. I'll be there at 11 a.m. Pacific time and 6 p.m. doing a Freedom Day and a Freedom Night. Monday night, September 17th, I'll be there again at 6 p.m. at Needles Assembly of God. And then next Wednesday, the 19th at 7 o'clock, Radiance International House of Prayer. I'll be there with Mary Crowley. A lot of you know her from the LA area. I'll say this, on Tuesday, the 18th, I'll be with Gemma Wenger. She's going to be interviewing me on KKLA radio. And Gemma, she was in Hollywood, as well as her mom and dad. And so she has a lot of connections with people that are in Hollywood. So they obviously, they want to know the truth. They want to be, godly and have peace in their lives. So, and then September 22nd, I'll be in Ojai, O-J-A-I, California. It's at a personal home. We're doing a freedom in the morning session, and then doing training and equipping in the afternoon. Ojai is located like north of Oxnard, Ventura. I think there's a lot of New Age people around there, so that'll be a good place to infiltrate and get people completely set free. And then Pasadena, we're getting that set up now. It might be September the 23rd, a Sunday. There's a church in Pasadena, and but I'm not going to name the details yet until we have that all confirmed. So anyway, then I'm heading from California to, at this point, through Arizona on my way to New Mexico. September I think it's 20. Well, let me check here. I got my calendar here. September 28th and 29th. Yes, I will be in New Mexico, Portales, which is an eastern part of New Mexico. Then the first week of October, I'll be in Texas again, back with my peeps, my home away from home. The first week I'll be in Dallas area, and the second week I will be in the Houston area. I'll be doing my TV show recordings on KBN TV on the 8th through the 11th. And then the 13th, I'll be doing the family reunion deliverance in Tennessee, Henderson, Tennessee. The 14th, I'll be at Chickasaw State Park in Henderson, Tennessee, doing deliverance for the public. And then the 21st, I'll be in Campbellsville, Kentucky at Faith Covenant. Looking forward to seeing my peeps there, Stephanie and Joey Hughes, and hopefully some others. And then, I'm looking to come to Cleveland, Ohio, the 27th. I'm getting that confirmed now, but it looks very good. And then November, the 9th and 10th, I'll be in New Orleans. And New Orleans, where I'm going to be at? I'm going to be at it's a healing room. Trees. I can't remember the name. November 9th. Let's see if I've got it on here. I don't have it on here. Here it is, deliverance training. Tree of Life Healing Rooms in Kenner, Louisiana. So looking forward to that. I have not done ministry yet in the New Orleans area, and as you can imagine, a lot of witchcraft, a lot of Jezebel, a lot of evil stuff. It's funny because of the cities that I really didn't like the most when I was traveling on business, but before I really even knew much about spiritual warfare, was Las Vegas and New Orleans. Because number one, I don't drink alcohol. I've never liked it. I mean, nothing against people that do. Obviously, we're not supposed to get drunk. Although the other day, where was that? I was at the Russian church in Vancouver, Washington, and they were doing communion. And I've never been in a Russian church before. And so as they were passing around the vials of what I had expected to be grape juice, because I love Welch's grape juice, I could smell alcohol. And I was like, oh no, pew, I don't like this. But I made myself drink it. It wasn't going to be weird. And so it definitely was wine. And so nothing against wine, and a lot of people drink wine, that's fine. I don't like it. I tried to make myself drink it when I was in business. I never liked it. And so anyways, that's just me. So I will let you guys go. So enjoy this 9/11 day. Remember where you were, and remember where you are now. And hopefully you've improved and gotten closer to God. closer to Jesus, and hopefully you are stronger in the Lord than what you were. And it takes work. We can't just sit back all day and be spoon-fed. We have to do some work. Sometimes you have to fast. And I remember I fasted 3 days up to that point on 9/11, and then since then, I think my next fast wasn't until like 2014. I did a 7-day fast, water only. Very hard for me to do. No eating and nothing. And then that prepared me because it was in, no, actually that was in late 2013. The first week, my birthday, January 2014, was January 2nd. I had started a 21-day fast, water only, and I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks, and it was hard, hardest thing I ever had done. And so, you know, you do a 21-day fast drinking water only, and it will definitely separate the men from the boys when it comes to your spiritual walk, because it's not easy. You can't just say, well, I'm all good and I'm all great and I'm this and that. You know, when you starve yourself and you pray the Lord, you know, it's a good thing, obviously. It will help strengthen you against the enemy. All right, well, I will let you guys go. Have a great rest of your day, and love ya. See ya. Bye.